At this time, we want to welcome in our broadcast ministry, those who will be on us live, those who will be on us by way of tape delay. We want to welcome you into our Sabbath morning worship service. Amore Matiti Jeremiah, Shabbat Shalom, and BethYah Barak you. We are continuing in our series on how to be a mighty man or woman of Yah, and more importantly, our sub-series. And if you would meet me in Tehillim 73, verse number 2. But as for me, my foot or my feet had almost stumbled, my steps had nearly slipped. Verse 3, for I was envious of the boasters when I saw the peace of the wrongdoers. For our Torah teaching topic for this Shabbat, we want to look at when a mighty man of Yah questions the reward of the wicked, part 5. And as we kind of began this sub-series, I kind of said that it was going to be a couple of weeks. I didn't know that it was going to turn into several weeks. But there is just so much that is packed in this chapter. And the irony of this was when I was part of Christianity, pastor I sat under, I remember him teaching, it was either this or Psalm 73 or Psalm 37, and he taught it, and he actually preached it at a couple of different services, and I went to him and I said to him, I said, wow, how do you do that so that it's always the same? Because it's just like it's always, no matter where he preached it at, it always came out the same. It was just like it was when I originally heard it. And he shared with me some things, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. But not realizing it. And because of this, it kind of caused me to go look back at him to see where he's at today. But for me, as we began to dive into this text, it was just so much stuff that was in here, and so much stuff that is relevant to us today, that I had to take my time. We have to take our time, because this is not about a form or fashion. It's not about how eloquent. It's about unpacking the truth of Yah's word, and us getting to a point and a place of getting to the truth and understanding how this is applicable for us today, so that our lives can be changed and we can be the better for the coming. So for the last 5 Shabbats, I came in and we talked about the blessings, and most importantly, we talked about the things that appears, and how we have to look at and focus on, notice the emphasis on the word appears. It was funny, I was watching something, and somebody used another term, and it's kind of synonymous with appears, and especially excuse me, especially with the situation that's going on over in Israel. It seems as though this or that, or it appears this or that. And I told you that Dawid was letting us know that he had some questions as to why it appears that the unrighteous are being rewarded. And we talked about the blessings and the curses, and we talked about the consequences, and we talked about the things that appear or seem to be. We talked about the importance of keeping our focus on Yah and understanding that though it may appear or seem to be one way, Yah says something else. And that's what we need to focus on. What does Yah say? We talked about understanding that though it appears that the unrighteous got all of these things or have all of these things, they may appear to be prospering. But if we stick to the script, in Proverbs 13:22, it talks about, the wealth of the wicked is laid up for who? For the just, for the righteous. All right? So we cannot get hung up on or hang up on the fact that it appears that they're doing this, they have this, and so forth and so on. We talked about, I'm trying to give a brief synopsis, leaving the inheritance to your children's children. We talked about getting back to biblical principles. We looked at the consternation of Aesop, and we told you that consternation is nothing more than a feeling of anxiety or dismay. And I can sit here and tell you I'm consternated all the time, not constipated, consternated all the time. Maisha, I'll tell you, I'm frustrated, I am dismayed, and basically what keeps me going is I have to stop and take a breath and look to Yah and pray that Yah would direct me in that which I need to do so that I can get where He has for us to be. We also went in and we talked about how Aesop had these two deeply troubling matters, and one was the prosperity of the wicked, and that's where we're at right now. We have not gotten off this point. There's pages and pages and pages. I mean, and it's just like the more I think I'm done, the more Yah begins to say, well, what about over here? What about that right there? And in this, because I guess I'm the walking billboard for this. Yah is saying, I'm showing you this so that I can help you to help others to understand what's going on and not to get hung up on what it appears to be. Hallelujah. And thank Yah for what it doesn't appear to be. So we looked at the prosperity of the wicked, and we talked about they enjoy health and wealth. And the health and the wealth, we told you that it's a game. They are in control. They control the aspects of our life, everything that they do. In fact, I was watching something today that was talking about how the political system was stolen from us and set up for them. And and because we don't know who we are, there are these people who are in a certain place who call them certain people, the people of the book, but in essence they're not. They're nothing more than identity thieves. They have stolen our identity. There are those who call themselves Indians who are nothing more than foreigners who have taken our land, who have taken our history, our heritage. And that's why it's important for us to understand and to realize and to know exactly who you are, so that you cannot be deceived, hoodwinked, lied to, your things taken or stolen, and going in and allowing the Most High to fight battles for us. Health, not realizing 3 years ago I broke my back, not realizing that the things that's going on in my body is directly related to my health by what I eat and how these people are messing with our food. when I got to a point of making a stance and a change and saying, hey, listen, I'm recognizing and realizing the game. So now I know what the game is. Now I have to take it and turn the game around so that I can circumvent what they're attempting to do to me, so that I can have the health and the wealth as Yah has ordained for me to have. So in this, I have to do some things different. I can't continue to do the same thing and expect something different. If you keep going left, you're going to continue to go left. And it's funny because there was an old saying one of the pastors I used to sit under talked about, it's better to sin than to be in error. And I was explaining this to one of my children, and as I was saying it, I was just like, it really began to resonate in me, because if you continue in error, you will continue in error. You'll never realize that what you're doing is wrong. So in it, it's better to sin, so that way that you can come to the realization that I offended the Most High. In error, you never think that you're offending the Most High. And in fact, when we get self-centered and selfish and so forth and so on, to that point, it gets to a point that we think it's all about us. It's me, 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 me. And it's not me, 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 me. It's him, 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 him. Because I offend him first. And until I get to that point of understanding that anything that occurs offends him first, I will never come to the realization of what I am doing is wrong. So now I'm going to kind of adjust that, and granted, he said it's better to sin than to be an error. To be honest, it's better to be righteous and not have to worry about any of that. But we're human. We make mistakes, we fail, we fall, we trip, we stumble, we intentionally, unintentionally, through ignorance, we do things. And there was a brother that we used to fellowship with, and Maisha was showing me a video, and in it I looked at him and I was just like, wow. He's been in this longer than we have, but yet he has become stagnant. And granted, I remember there was a time when we were transitioning, we were learning, we were growing, and not realizing all of the lies. And I've been in well, quote unquote, religiously trained institutions majority of my life. I went to Catholic school. I was a student in religion. I went to Bible school. I was a student there. I went into seminary. I was a student there. And the things that I learned, as the closer I came to the end of me, the more I began to see him. And the more I began to see him, the more I began to see the error of my ways. Now, was it my fault that I was in error? Yes and no. Only behind the fact that I didn't know better. I only knew what those who were instructed me taught me. And it wasn't until I got to a point of getting to the end of myself that then he could come in and introduce himself and tell me about him. Who better to teach you about me than me? Now, my wife can probably teach you a lot about me, because my wife been with me for 19 years, going on 20. And even still, there are things that she may not be able to teach you. Because, okay, so let me put it this way. According to the level of comfortability, according to the level of trust, and I'm not saying that Yah doesn't trust us. Yah's an open book. Yah's an open book. I guess the point I'm saying is we are not. We're not open books. Sometimes. And because we may have been hurt, there are things that we closely guard because of our hurt that we will not share openly with everyone. And because of that, it hinders us. But if we look at it from the standpoint of Yah being the open book and getting past ourselves, we can then get healing. We can then receive forgiveness, because it goes back to what I was saying. We offend him first. And when we get to that point of leaning on him, trusting him, developing a relationship with him, doing with him what I may not be comfortable doing with you, then I can now be massaged and marinated in his love and his mercy and his forgiveness, that it will cause me to be what? Like my father, an open book. And it used to be a time I used to be ashamed of certain things in my life, but at this point in time in my life, it doesn't make a difference. I was sharing with a dear friend of mine the other day. I said, I'm going to share something with you that you probably don't know about me. And I gave him a disclaimer. I said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't care what you think or feel about what I'm going to tell you, because this is my life. There's nothing that you can do about it. This is something that was done, is past, it doesn't exist today. And the beautiful thing about it is this, and I praise Yah, because my wife knows me. My wife has glimpses of my past, but my wife does not know my past. Meaning, I think I might have said that wrong. She hasn't experienced me in my past. She has only experienced what my open book has done. And you know, and it's funny because I remember when we were dating, one of the hardest things that I had to share with her was that I was recently homeless. I was recently addicted to drugs. I was addicted to alcohol and all of these things. And the beautiful thing of it is she only heard about it. She didn't experience it. And because of that, she saw something in me, but I believe more importantly, because she had a heart to serve the Most High, that it was the Most High who was leading her and directing her and so forth and so on. One of the things we always used to say, it does not yet appear what will be. So this appearance, you know, even in this health situation, this appearance, I don't appear like I appeared 30 days ago, because I've lost weight. I believe I'm getting healthier. I'm eating healthier. I'm doing healthier things. I'm feeling better. I'm not 100%, but I feel better than I did. And because of this, I'm taking control. There was a brother, we were talking, and we were discussing the point of self-mastery. Mastering oneself. And this is the thing. We gotta stop being part-time participants. We either fully committed to this and mastering ourselves, or we're not. Because if we don't learn to master ourselves, then we will have those who are unrighteous ruling over us. Because we cannot master ourselves, control ourselves, bring our flesh under subjection, then there are those who call themselves government who are going to govern us because we cannot what? Govern ourselves. So we talked about the prosperity of the wicked and them having no worries or no problems, and I explained to you they don't have problems like we have problems. They don't have worries like we have worries. They have their own set of different worries. Money is not one, but one of their worries is what? How to maintain what they have. And it's not just the fact of maintaining money, but maintaining the control over us. We talked about that they were proud and they were cruel. We talked about pride, and we talked about how pride makes us sick. That selfish, self-centered, me situation. We talked about their fatness. And that's kind of where we left off, where we were talking about King Nebuchadnezzar. And I was sharing with you how that Joachim and Jerusalem was besieged. And we talked about Daniel chapter 1. And that's kind of where we were at. And I told you that Yah allowed King Nebuchadnezzar to besiege Joachim and Jerusalem. And the key point here is that King Nebuchadnezzar was being obedient to Yah by punishing his children, even though he was being obedient to Yah, that he would still face the wrath of Yah. And that kind of brought me to another point. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 24, it reads thusly: Yahuwah showed me, and look, there are 2 baskets of figs set before the Hekel of Yahuwah. After Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel, had exiled Yahudah, the son of Joachim, sovereign of Yehudah, and the heads of Yehudah, with the craftsmen and the smiths from Jerusalem, and he had brought them to Babel. Now he says, in verse 2, he says, one basket had very good figs, like the figs that are first ripe. And the other basket had very spoiled figs, which could not be eaten because they were so spoiled. Verse 3, and Yahuwah said to me, what do you see, Jeremiah? And I said, the figs, the good figs, the very good figs, and the spoiled, very spoiled, which cannot be eaten, they are so spoiled. Verse 4, again the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, thus says Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, Like those good figs, so do I acknowledge the exiles of Yahudah, whom I have sent out of this place for their own good in the land of the Chaldeans. I want to stop right there. Listen. Please understand. Please comprehend. You may think you know better, but Yah knows best. He says, I have sent out of this place for their own good. One of the things the brother was talking about that I was listening to this morning, he was talking about how the enemy takes and brings problems in our life to remove us from our level of comfortability. And he presents us with a solution to get us back to our comfortability. And that solution is not always beneficial to us, but always beneficial to the enemy. So in essence, the level of our comfortability can determine what we do and what we don't do. I might suggest to us this morning that we may have to shift our level of comfortability to make ourselves a little uncomfortable. Now, I'm going to share this. And right now, I guess because I'm in this really promoting this healthy living and trying to eat healthy and trying to be healthy and stop putting all this poison and stuff in our bodies. We had a perfectly good working microwave. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember this correctly, we had bought two of them. One was for us and one was for my mother-in-law. We bought the same one. They were on sale or something. I forget what it was. And we gave one away. I don't know who we gave it to, but that was some years ago. And we kept the other. And we got to a point of learning that us taking and putting perfectly good food into a microwave and zapping it with rays was unhealthy. So instead of giving the second one away, we threw it away. Though it made us comfortable, it was convenient, and it made our food appear to be freshly cooked, hot and moist and all of that stuff. And we cannot duplicate that, even though we have an air fryer. We cannot duplicate that same freshness that appeared to be fresh with the air fryer, because we're trying to do things healthier. Sometimes, because we cannot move our own comfortability, that Yah has to move us out of our comfortable zone. And he lets us know. He says, listen. He says, thus says Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, like those good figs. Listen what he's saying. He said, like those good figs, not the spoiled figs, but like those good figs, so do I have acknowledged the exiles in Yahudah, whom I have sent out of this place for their own good, for their own good. It moved us out of his comfortability. But he says, I sent you out because it's for your good. I need you to understand that. So church folk always like to quote Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good, right? But they don't like the pressure that sometimes the things that occur that work out the good. They don't like that pressure. They don't like being moved out of their level of comfortability. He says, for your own good, into the land of the Chaldeans. Verse 6, he said, I shall set my eyes on them for good, and shall bring them back to this land, and I shall build them and not pull them down, and shall plant them and not pluck them up. Y'all saying it's for your good. What I'm doing is for your good. It may make you uncomfortable, but it's for your good. Some of the things I'm going through with my back, and sometimes I have to push myself. And even to the point I realize now that when I do the exercises that my surgeon had recommended, it helps to make my back feel better. I get to feeling better. I stop exercising. My back starts hurting. So what do I got to do? Well, I just realized for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to do these exercises to help my back to get me through for as many days as Yah blesses me with. It's just that plain and simple. This is something for the rest of my life. It's the song we were singing in worship this morning. I'm going to serve him. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to live healthy as I can. I'm going to do the best that I can for the rest of my life, because at this point in time, I know better. I got to what? I got to do better. I cannot continue to keep doing the same thing over and over and not expect something to change because I didn't do anything different. It's just that plain, it's just that simple. He said, I set my eyes on them for good, and shall bring them back to this land, and I shall build them and not pull them down. He said, I shall plant them and not pluck them up. Understand, he has our best intentions for us. He has the best intentions for us. And we just have to look at it from that perspective and not sit there and murmur and complain. Even if you remember when the children of Israel were leaving out of Misraim and they got on the other side of the land, they talking about we tired of this bread, give us meat. They gave them meat, then they complained about the water while the meat was still in their mouth. Come on. Complain, murmur. And granted, was it troublesome to have to pick up and go and leave out of a place? Because even then, as they were traveling, they said, it's better we go back and turn back and serve Misraim. At least we had food and stuff. We were comfortable back there, even though you was in slavery. Come on, y'all don't want to talk to me this morning. Hallelujah. He says, verse 7, he said, and I shall give them a heart to know me. Part of the problem is we have foreigners who have come and given us false idols and deities to worship. They have polluted, and some people don't want to look at the history of this wicked country. And granted, everybody's talking about the atrocities that's going on over there in Israel. And granted, Yah's in control. Come on. Yah's in control. And watch it. Thank you, Yah. Yah just showed me this. He says, go back to verse 6. He said, and I shall set my eyes on them for good. Now watch this. The stuff that happened over Israel last week, it happened on the alleged Shabbat during the alleged feast of Sukkot. It's not Yah in control. Oh, bless his name. Y'all just showed me something. I don't know where it's at. Just give me a second. Um, 127. Okay. So, the people who call themselves Jews over in Israel, do you think that Yah would not protect his people? Or would allow something to occur to his people during the day that they're supposed to be at rest? Tehillim 127, it says, if Yahuwah does not build the house, its builders have labored in vain. If Yahuwah does not guard the city, the watchman has stayed awake in vain. In vain do you rise up early to sit up late, to eat the bread of toil, so he gives his beloved sleep. Look, children are an inheritance from Yahuwah. The fruit of the womb is the reward. As arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who has filled his quiver with them. They are not ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate. So, I guess my question to us today was y'all asleep on Shabbat? Why would y'all, wait a second, why would y'all be asleep on Shabbat? The day that we are to come to worship before him, to fellowship with him, to sit at his feet, to hear his word, to sing praises. Come on. It's one day out of 7 he sets apart for us to come together so that we can hear from him, to fellowship with him, and him allow something to occur during his day of rest. Resting from the world, resting from labor. Is y'all not in control? Come on, y'all don't want to talk to me. He said, and I shall give them, verse 7, a heart to know me, that I am Yahuwah. And they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim, for they shall turn back to me with all their heart. And I keep saying it, you got to realize, you got to recognize, you got to repent, you got to return so that you can be restored, so that you can get your reward. Come on. Hallelujah. He says, for you shall turn back to me with all their heart. We got to stop being part-time participants. Now, granted, I love my wife. I do. And I love her as I'm commanded to love her. Sometimes I don't love her as much as I should, but I'm trying to get better because I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. We working on it. Come on, y'all don't want to talk to me. But I love Yah. And it's because of the love of Yah that I can love her. I have to, and understand this. With all of our heart, for the same as anything that we do offends him first. The love of Yah has to be in us first. For the one who gives unconditional love to teach us how to love one another. Because there are the entertainment industry people, Hollywood, who want to teach you how to love. Same-sex marriages, sleeping around, all of this foolishness. But this is not the love of Almighty Yah. It's not. So we have to go to the one who is the very essence of love to teach us how to love. Oh, bless his name. Verse 8. And as the spoiled figs that could not be eaten because they are so spoiled, for thus says Yahuwah, so do I give up Sidkah, the sovereign of Judah, his heads, the rest of Jerusalem, who remain in this land, and those who dwell in the land of Ministries. So, in essence, in order for me to produce, now question, does anybody know what happens to rotten fruit? Rotten fruit, even though it's spoiled to eat, becomes seeds to produce what? More fruit. Take the fruit, don't throw it in the trash. Plant it if you want that particular fruit or that particular food. Because the seeds are still in there. The meat just has become uneatable. But the nutrition that is in there for the earth to take and suck in to make the things that we need gives the spoiled fruit the ability to reproduce fresh fruit that becomes nourishment for our body. Oh, bless his name. All right, verse 9. And I shall make them a horror to all the reigns of the earth for evil, to be a reproach and a byword, a mockery and a curse, in all the places to which I drive them. Now, I'm going to stop right there for a second. All these people who are talking about Israel, or the people who are allegedly in Israel, come on. These people are not matching this verse. They have claimed that they have never been in slavery. They want to claim all these different things. And how can you claim that which is a condition of the promise? You can't. If you look at who these people are, they're identity thieves. Come on, y'all want to talk to me. Hallelujah. Verse 10. And he said, I shall send the sword, the scarcity of food. Pump the brakes. I was in Walmart the other day, and Maisha sent me something, sent me to the store to get something. And I looked, and most of the shelves were bare. And especially what you're asking for, there was none in sight. Went to go get some steak. Steak was there. If I can share anything, you need to prepare. Because things are ramping up. If you don't have eyes to see, we're in the last days and times. It is important. It is imperative that we get ourselves together,
that we begin to store what we can, get what you need. They get ready with this mask stuff again and this vaccination crap again. Come on. And stuff. And you need to be paying attention to what's going on and seek the Most High. Because here he says in verse 10, he says, I shall send the sword, wars, the scarcity of food, and the pestilence among them till they are consumed from the land that I gave to them and their forefathers or their fathers. So he's letting us know, I do this. It appears that what? They do this. But here Yah says, I send the sword. Yah says, the scarcity of food, and the pestilence among them, till they are consumed from the land which I gave to them and their fathers. Why? Well, I guess you got to go back to verse 7. And I shall give them a heart to know me, that I am Yahuwah. And they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall turn back to me with all their heart. It's incumbent and imperative for us to get to the place and to the point of turning back to him with all of our heart. So we won't be consumed. Listen, one of the hardest things I ever had to do is to learn to take responsibility and ownership of my mess. I can sit here and blame this person and that person and so forth and so on, and guess what? Nothing gets resolved because I have never taken ownership for my part in what I did. Irregardless of what they did, I have to take ownership of what I've done. And I have to ask for forgiveness for him, but most importantly, I have to get to a point of forgiving myself. Hallelujah. Because if I don't, I'm never going to heal. And though there may be people who have done some things to me and so forth, and done things to you and whatever, we got to forgive them, to let them go. Irregardless. Because remember, they may have did it to me, but who did they do it to first? To Yah. Granted, I'm not trying to lessen anything that anybody has been through. Trust me, things that people do to us hurt. I get it. Been there, done that. Bought the t-shirt, got the cap. Come on. And I hung on to it, and as long as I hung on to it, I remained sick and unhealthy. But now, I can move forward and live and move and have my being. Irregardless, I don't know what some of the people going through. God has allowed me to see some of the things that some of the people have done to me, his reward for them. Get back to our message. The reward of the unrighteous appears one way, but ultimately their reward is going to be different according to Yah. So even though King Nebuchadnezzar was obedient to what Yah commanded, it was his pride that also led to his punishment. We cannot just handle the things of Yah without regard. And see, the world has made it so that we have become a laughingstock. Because the world has polluted the things of Yah. They have made what is right wrong and what's wrong right. They have twisted and confused things. They have hidden things. They have lied about things. And they have tried to whitewash history and our heritage so that we would not know who we are. We have become polluted. The things of Yah have become polluted. But I guess the question is, how do we turn this around? We must first put away our pride and seek Yah's forgiveness so that we can return and be restored, so that we be what he called us to be. So let's look at the arrogance toward Elohim and the people. In fact, before we get into that, I need to go back into Nebuchadnezzar. So, here's another part. And this is the thing, and this is why I'm just like, I'm looking at this and I'm just like, man, we done kind of stepped into a whole different thing, even though this is dealing with our we done delved into a whole thing, because I need us to clearly understand and see exactly what's going on in this, with this, what the unrighteous reward appears to be, what it seems to be, what it looks like. And it's not really what it is. But anyway, the other point I want to get to is this. There is power in prayer. I remember when we did our series on prayer
At that time, neither me or my wife were working. And one of the things that Yah showed me is that prayer works even when you don't. So I'm not delineating the power of prayer. What I'm saying is we have to put prayer in its proper perspective. And for some of us, we're praying for things that aren't going to come to pass. Well, Maury, you just said that there's power in prayer. There is. Let me define that a little bit. You cannot pray against the will of Yah. I'm going to give you two examples. The prophet, the Nabi Yeshayah, went unto King Hezekiah and said unto him that Yah require your soul today. King Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and he prayed. And because of his righteousness, Yah granted him 15 additional years. Now, what's the difference between King Hezekiah and us praying against Yah's will? Because was it not Yah's will that Hezekiah come? The difference being that Yah showed compassion on King Hezekiah because that was personal.
It wasn't a prophecy that stated, Yah is taking you today. And it was proclaimed throughout all the kingdom. Yah sent the Nabi directly to King Hezekiah and said that because Israel has defiled themselves and turned their back. So Hezekiah found compassion and was doing what was right. And Israel had defiled themselves. Not to say that there were not, go back to what we were talking about in the beginning of 24, where we're talking about the good fruit and the bad fruit. The good fruit, the bad fruit, all the fruit went. Okay? But there were purposes for the fruit. The bad fruit, because they turned their back from Yah. The good fruit, because they kept to Yah, they obeyed Yah, they were sent to be what? The examples of Yah. And even in the midst of the exile and the captivity, they were the light in a dark place. They were the examples in it. And even with Jeremiah, Jeremiah got the prophecy. He spoke the prophecy unto the people. And if I remember this correctly, the people ran into Jeremiah, and they asked him to pray to Yah, and whatever Yah says, we will do. Jeremiah goes and he prays. And the word comes back that not to go to Mitzrayim, but you are to go into captivity. And the people were like, oh, we going to Mitzrayim. And they was on their way to Mitzrayim, where they end up in Babylon. Come on, y'all don't want to talk to me. Why? Because Yah's word went forth as a prophecy to all the people. Now, the difference between Israel and King Hezekiah, that was not a prophecy. It was a word that was spoken to Hezekiah. And in that, Yah showed mercy and favor and compassion to him versus Israel, who was defiant all the way through. And the word came. Yah's not going to allow his word to fail. His word is going to accomplish what he set it out to do. Jeremiah left behind in a desolate city